Ruslan.
All right, so the other part I wanted to highlight is Chance's, this isn't in chronological order, meaning the flow of this is different than it was said, but I wanted to highlight this, and this is Chance talking about, on his interview with Kirk Franklin, and him talking about this position of being, classified as a gospel rapper, Christian rapper, not really aspiring for it, but not backing away from it, and how he believes he's different, and exactly the fact that he wasn't prepared for any of it, and what makes him different from a Kanye West. Again, check out the Good Words podcast with Kirk Franklin. I think this is really interesting. Listen up to this. Okay, check this out.
Question is, I want to know from you that when you started seeing headlines calling you a gospel rapper, did that scare the hell out of you? Because that's not what you were trying to do.
Yeah, it did. To be honest, it was I actually never wanted to be, at the time, or even I would say to this day, considered a gospel artist. Because when I think of the word gospel, I think of the gospel, or the good news, and my album, it was very far from what people were used to seeing in mainstream hip hop in terms of, being honest about my faith and stuff. But it still wasn't. Like, to me, a gospel album, Kanye made a gospel album. His last album, to me, was fully in service of Christ. I think all my projects are me explaining where I'm at in life. So my last one was about getting married. The one before that was about me finding Christ. The one before that was about me doing drugs. The one before that was about being in high school and getting suspended. So it's like, I try and tell my story, and I think I still have an album in me that's going to be fully in service to Christ.
Woo! That's cool. Okay, so listen to what he's saying. Okay, he said that to him, a gospel album is something that is fully in service to Christ. He said Kanye's last album was a gospel album. He said, my albums are just a reflection of where I am in my life. Last album was about getting married. Those of you guys that are like, where's the fruit, Ruslan? Where's Chance the Rapper's fruit? It's in him getting married. How about that? How about this man was doing drugs before that album, gets married, and makes a whole album about being married and being a Christian. Yes, there's profanity on it, but by and large, goodness gracious, this man went from acid rap to, The Big Day, which wasn't as dope artistically, if we're gonna be honest, but boom, there's the fruit. This man repented of his sexual immorality and married his long-term girlfriend, who, is a Christian as well. So that right there is I don't know what else you want from fruit. You know what I'm saying? So back to this point though. Listen, this man is saying, hey, I never saw myself as a gospel artist or a gospel rapper because that is directly in service to Christ. Kanye does a gospel album. He says, I'm just a rapper who's rapping about my life. So when I was a kid on 10-day, suspended from school, that's what I rapped about. When I started experimenting with drugs, on acid rap, that's what I rapped about. When I started finding Christ in 2014, 2015, he said he came to Christ in 2015, I think he said, that's what I rapped about, right? And when I got married, that's what I rapped about. He said, I still have a gospel album in me. Really cool. That's super dope. And by gospel, he now is saying flat out like about Jesus and the way that this is different from, his other work. But this is the question. This is the question I really have for a lot of you guys is, some of y'all get really mad when artists don't want to wear the label Christian rapper, Christian artist, gospel rapper, but he's telling you guys why. Because he's saying, listen, my albums are not in direct worship reflection to Jesus the way a Kanye is. And so as a society, he's in a spot where he's too Christian for the world, because he's still going to talk about God, but he's too worldly for the Christians. And so he's in this weird in-between place. And so those of you guys that are here, like, would you him rather not say he's Christian and never talk about his faith? Or would you rather see the messy process of somebody that's wildly influential with immense access to excess going through the process of sharing his light, sharing his life before the world? That's a really tough balance, right? Because some of you guys really want your Christian artists, your Christian influencers, your Christian, athletes. You want them perfect. Like, right? You want them without any blemishes, any sin, and what you're really doing is you're idolizing people. You're putting them up to standards that you don't even hold yourself to, because you're looking at Chance and you're saying, oh, well, he had a line about this. And by the way, on this channel, I've historically called out all the inconsistencies in Chance, from the booty applaud line to the line about smoking weed on a holy song. Consistently, I have. But you want to elevate people to a platform that you're not even on. Like, you probably deal with some degree, I don't know, of profanity. Your web history probably doesn't look the cleanest, yet you have this expectation of artist he's in his early 20s. Like, this man is in his early 20s, and you want him to live to the standards of a pastor. So, serious question, would you rather someone in Chance's position just not talk about God at all, right? Because you're saying it's confusing and he doesn't show, whatever evidence of repentance, or would you rather see the messy process? This is my issue with a lot of Christian hip hop in general, is you guys really want folks to, you guys really want to hold. He's in his late 20s now. He came to faith in his early 20s. That's what I'm saying, okay? Don't get the timelines confused. 2015 is when he says he accepted Jesus. He said he was 21, 22. Acid Rap was already out. He was already popping, okay? The Coloring Book came out, I think, in 2016. He was already a megastar, all right? So just keep up with the timelines for me. So if we're talking about this man becoming one of the huge artists, would you rather him not talk about anything and just be quiet about his faith, or would you rather him share the messy journey and be willing to hop in conversations with the Isham Burgundy and go back and forth on scripture, who also called him out regarding the booty applaud line, right? I don't know. I don't know. How do we find that balance? But specifically in Christian music, Christian hip hop, you guys want to hold the RGs and the Hovies and these young guys to the standards of a freaking elder, like, and an elder should be above reproach. He should blah, 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 blah. And it's like, fam, these are young kids. These are young rappers. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to get it wrong. They're going to drop the ball. Like, I think it's a very, very, very complicated thing. And I think a lot of times the fans and the consumer, you guys just hold artists to standards of elders and pastors, and they're not. That's not what they are. That's not what he set out to be. So, something to think about. Now listen to him be vulnerable and talk about how he's dropped the ball. Like, there's no shame in him being transparent. Check this out.
Difficult that balancing act was?
I don't think so. I think I'm still unprepared. It's a daily fight, and there's all types of spiritual warfare within the industry that we work in. And so I think what I am able to do is I've been blessed with good discernment, I think, to a certain extent, to be able to kind of just see what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. But also, yeah, it's God is absolute. So it's like, he's absolute in his forgiveness, but he's also absolute in the fact that he gave us the information that we needed. And so
I'm good.
I think I've tried and, I don't know. I'm still figuring this stuff out and still battling with just outside of music, like watching my mouth and watching, how I react to things. And it's a daily battle. But I think I was in that same regard. I feel like
he said it's a daily battle. He's still figuring it out. He's still talking about watching his mouth, right? I bet you a lot of the critiques that I've said on songs like Holy, him referencing weed, all these different things, I bet you he would agree with me. Like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, right? But that's interesting that he's self-aware enough to say, hey, guys, I'm still working through this stuff. I'm still figuring it out, right?
I don't always have the same tools or the same resources or the same outlook or the same feeling or spirit every day, but I feel like, God's not going to give me more than I could bear. And so I just got to look for the tools that Jesus has given me in the moment so I could get through. And I feel like that's like my everyday battle.
Sheesh.
And you talking about one of those tools being discernment. How
this is really good to get into discernment right here.
one cultivate?
This is like a real practical nugget for a lot of us.
How can a person cultivate discernment, or is that a spiritual gift?
I think to a certain level it's a spiritual gift, because I think the only way to really tone it or work that muscle is to be in the Word. And
The only way to tone it and work that muscle is to be in the word. Come on, Chancellor.
I am. Learn the word.
Learn the word.
Necessarily have the word right in front of me, but he gave me the word, and then as I went through it, I picked up my book, and then it's right there. It's like, this is what you're living through. And so I think it's both sides. It's something that you have to, it's a skill that you have to, just like you go to the gym, you got to work out. But it's also, I think God, you know, he blesses people. That's just a true thing. There's people in the Bible that were blessed. And it's,
wow. So that's really dope. Okay, so the tension of being a Christian in music while not having it all together and still wrestling with stuff like drug addiction and your mouth and all these different things, right? While saying, yeah, and I'm pressing more into the word. Why? Because I need to grow in discernment. And it's not just a spiritual gift that some people have. It sometimes it's like that, but other times you need to learn that word and you need to understand what God's ways are so you can walk in God's will. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was really good. And I think that's a very, very good gauge in terms of just how spot on he is with this stuff. And so I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the vulnerability. I think he, in his position, is doing the best that he can. And I'm excited to see where Chance is when he's 30, right? Like, where is Chance when he's my age? Like, I'm 36, okay? Guys, just so we're clear, like, I've been walking with Jesus since I was 17, actively in ministry, actively preaching. There was no sabbaticals, there was no time off, consistently. I don't know if I would have handled everything that he's had to go through as well as he has. And I'm not saying he did it perfectly, but that's why I think we miss it, is some of y'all are really thinking that you get saved and your life is perfect. That's just not how it works. And if you get saved and then there's access to excess and there's fame and there's all kinds of access to stuff that you didn't have before, it's a tough journey. So in that, I would hope that we would all have a little bit of grace on Chancellor as he's trying to figure this thing out. So questions for you guys. Do you want your Christian rappers and Christian influencers to be perfect? Are you okay with them showing the messy journey? Do you think it's a bad example? Or do you think that the world maybe needs to see folks be more vulnerable and transparent in their process? I'm really curious to hear from you.
King's Dream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Joshua the King came down and bore it all. Yeah, conversations front of the fireplace. All of my mistakes out of I erase. Wanna operate at a higher pace. Birth pains causing the body to dilate. On a first name basis with the worst pain facing. Moment